I wanted people to not have to get dressed up and just come over the house and stay up to the sunrise. And so it was great. I actually don't remember the party though.
The courtroom wasn't just quiet, it was haunted. For weeks, the Diddy trial had dominated headlines each day, revealing a deeper, darker layer. But this moment was different. It wasn't a surprise witness or a dramatic outburst. It was a name, Kim Kardashian. It dropped like a thunderclap in a church. No theatrics, just a sealed document quietly unsealed and one name spoken aloud. Pens stopped moving, jaws clenched. Even the sketch artist froze mid-line. Diddy shifted for the first time in weeks, eyes darting, jaw tightening. Something cracked. No one expected her name. Not here. Not like this. But this wasn't about celebrity. It wasn't about influence, it was about fear. And for the first time that fear had a face, the entire world recognized. Because behind every powerful man is a truth. He tried to bury, and someone strong enough to unearth it. It began with a sealed document, routine unassuming, but the moment it was opened, everything changed. The judge didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The name inside echoed louder than any gavel could strike Kim Kardashian. No one laughed, no one whispered, the room just paused, like time itself blinked. For weeks, Diddy had been a fortress, emotionless, unreadable. But as that name left the judge's lips, something broke, a twitch in his jaw, a glance toward his lawyer, a single shallow breath. This wasn't a media stunt, it wasn't clickbait, it was real official part of the record. The prosecution said nothing at first. They didn't have to, because the implication spoke for itself. According to the document nearly a decade earlier, Kim had experienced something behind the velvet curtain of an award show, something whispered about for years, denied by publicists, passed off as rumor. But now, it was evidence. Diddy's legal team lunged to object, calling the mention prejudicial, irrelevant hearsay. They tried to bury it before it could take root, but the judge was unmoved. If the name is on record, he said, and if the event can be reasonably corroborated, the jury deserves to know. And with that, the atmosphere shifted. This wasn't just another accusation, this was a turning point, because Kim wasn't someone you could dismiss. She wasn't anonymous, she was the definition of visible. And if someone like her, so tightly guarded, so carefully curated, had her name dragged into this courtroom, it meant one terrifying thing. Whatever happened backstage mattered. Now the question wasn't if she would speak, it was when and why she hadn't. Until now, it was supposed to be a simple appearance, the 2016 iconic sound, awards, flashbulbs, champagne, and the illusion of control. Kim Kardashian arrived draped in silver elegance, her smile camera. Ready, her image, flawless, but beneath the surface, she was weary. Not in the way the public could see, but in the way only years of scrutiny can shape a person. She wasn't staying long. Present the award pose for a few photos, disappear. Then came the message. A quiet tap on the shoulder. A whisper. Mr. Combs would like to say hello backstage. She read it twice. Diddy wasn't a stranger. They shared circles, events, history, but something about the timing felt off. Still, she nodded. A guarded hallway swallowed her whole layers of security, whispered instructions, and then silence. His lounge was cordoned off, dimly lit, heavy with stillness. A few familiar faces lingered, but all eyes were on her. Diddy greeted her with a smile, calm, unreadable. Kim, I'm glad you came. They exchanged pleasantries, the kind that masked tension. But the vibe shifted quickly. His words got quieter. He leaned in. You ever feel like the world watches you so hard you stop knowing what's real? Kim hesitated. Sometimes he nodded. Some of us were protected. We build layers. Control silence. She didn't respond. She didn't know if this was a conversation or a test. Then a staffer entered. Breathless. Kim, they need you on stage. Relief, escape. As she turned to leave, Diddy's final words followed her. You're smart too. Go now. Not everyone knows when to leave. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a compliment. It was something else. something that crawled under her skin and stayed there. That night she told no one, but she never forgot. She had buried the memory folded it away like an unworn dress tucked into the back of her mind, never to be touched. But memories have a way of resurfacing when you least expect them. The morning after her name was spoken in court, Kim Kardashian woke up to a world she couldn't control. News outlets blared headlines connecting her to the Diddy trial. Commentators speculated, the internet spiraled. And then came the photo, leaked anonymously. Grainy, dimly lit, but unmistakable. Kim caught mid-turn in a backstage hallway, arms crossed tight over her chest. Diddy just feet behind her, leaning in. Her face wasn't posed, it wasn't polished. Her eyes didn't meet the camera, they looked down away. There was no glamour in the frame, only discomfort. She remembered that exact second. The moment her instincts screamed louder than reason, and now the world had a window into it. A third-party witness stepped forward, an event staffer who saw her leave that room, eyes red, clutching her phone, whispering, "I shouldn't have gone." And it wasn't proof. Not in the legal sense, but it was something harder to shake, a feeling captured. A silence cracked. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Friends, brands, lawyers. Her mother, Chris, sounded shaken. "Do you know how big this is, Kim?" Didn't answer. She was staring at the image on her screen, the past pulled into the present by a single snapshot. Behind the scenes, her attorney scrambled. "You're not being accused," one said, "but if you're subpoenaed, you'll need to decide cooperate. Quietly, or speak, and control the narrative." Neither felt safe, but silence wasn't safe anymore either. And with that one photo, Kim Kardashian wasn't just part of the story. She was the story. Diddy's legal team moved fast, too fast, within hours. Of the photo leak, they filed an emergency motion suppress. Kim's name erased the narrative before it could calcify in the minds of the jury. She's not a witness, they argued. She hasn't accused anyone. Her presence only serves to inflame. But the judge wasn't moved by panic. If the event can be reasonably corroborated, he said the jury deserves to know. And just like that, the door stayed open. The prosecution remained calm, deliberate. They didn't overplay their hand, they simply submitted a sealed statement. Kim's words written and signed under legal advisement. She hadn't gone public. She hadn't taken the stand. But she had remembered. And that memory now lived inside the record. Diddy's posture changed, his stillness, once stoic, now read as rigid. He whispered more urgently to his lawyers, checked his phone, avoided the jury's eyes. The courtroom wasn't reacting to a scandal anymore. It was tracking a pattern. Quiet encounters, blurred memories, private spaces only a few were ever invited into. And now, for the first time, one of the most visible women on earth had cracked the silence. The jury leaned in. They weren't just hearing a story, they were beginning to feel it. Then came the witness, a backstage photographer, hands trembling as he held a manila folder. He had taken a single photo the night Kim left that room. He'd been told not to. Later, someone approached him. "You didn't see anything. You don't want to lose your job. Why didn't he speak sooner?" "Because I didn't think anyone would believe me until now." And with that, the courtroom changed. Not because someone shouted, but because someone finally said something, and someone else had already remembered. The courtroom dimmed. No one breathed. Kim Kardashian wasn't there in person, but her presence filled the room. A pre-recorded video was cued, filmed under oath, reviewed by her legal team, cleared by the court. No edits, no commentary, just her real deliberate. The screen flickered. She sat. In a neutral room, no glam, no filters, hair pulled back, makeup minimal. Not the icon, just the woman. Her voice was steady. "I've thought about that night for a long time," she began. "I never wanted to make it more than it was, but I won't pretend it didn't happen." She described walking into that lounge, how the room seemed too quiet, too controlled, how the energy shifted when the door closed, how a man she'd met countless times suddenly felt like a stranger and a mirror. "He didn't touch me," she said. "He didn't threaten me, but I knew I needed to leave, not because I was scared of him, but because something in me knew this wasn't where I was supposed to be." She paused, the silence thick. "I made an excuse. I smiled, I left. That's What women do when we're trying to exit a space that no longer feels safe without making it worse. And then came the line that cracked the room. It wasn't about what happened, it was about what didn't, and how close it came. When the video ended, no one moved. No gasps, no arguments, just silence. Because what she said didn't accuse, it remembered. And remembrance spoken with clarity and conviction carried a weight heavier than any allegation. Even Diddy's attorney didn't rise, he just scribbled, furiously as if trying to rewrite something that had already been carved into stone. And for the first time, the room believed her. Kim's video didn't echo, it detonated. The impact rippled beyond the courthouse walls. On news channels, analysts dissected every pause in her voice. On social media, hashtags surged, but inside the courtroom, something more dangerous took root. A shift. The jury had seen her face, heard her voice, felt the weight of words not meant to accuse, but to confirm, and suddenly, Kim wasn't an isolated story. She was a thread, and threads pull everything apart. The next witness wasn't a celebrity. She was a former industry publicist, someone who had worked behind the scenes at award shows and after parties. Her tone was clinical, but her words weren't. There were always rooms, she said, VIP zones where only a few were allowed. Places that didn't feel like part of the event. Places where no one asked questions. She didn't mention Kim. She didn't need to, because her story mirrored everything Kim had just revealed. The defense objected, irrelevant, hearsay, speculative. But the prosecution came armed. They dropped rosters, text messages, emails, all referencing no photo zones, guest clearing, and protocols that matched Kim's account detail for detail. It was no longer about one moment. It was about a pattern, and patterns don't lie. Back at the defense table, Diddy leaned forward, elbows tight, fingers pressed against his lips. Not a man fighting, a man bracing. For the first time, the jury wasn't just listening, they were watching him. And in his silence, they didn't see control. They saw collapse. The unspoken truth was becoming a chorus. Quiet confirmations, subtle nods, faces from the past who had nothing to gain but everything to remember. The courtroom didn't need another outburst. They just needed consistency. And Kim's statement had unlocked the permission to speak. What happens when luxury meets control? Diddy Retreats, the exclusive getaway tied to the music mogul himself, is making waves, but not for the usual reasons. While Sean Diddy Combs rarely shows up for court appearances linked to the property, leaked documents paint a different picture of life behind the scenes. Guests aren't just handed a key and let loose. The retreat operates under tight control tactics, detailed guest sign-ins, restricted hallway access, and a security system designed to monitor every move. It's not your average vacation spot. This is a fortress wrapped in luxury. Even more striking is a 3D reconstruction of the retreat's layout that surfaced recently. The design is deliberate, one way in, one way out. No secret doors, no back entrances, no easy escapes. The architecture itself enforces control, a physical reminder of who holds the power. Why such restrictions? Some say it's about privacy. Others whisper of deeper, more complicated reasons. The retreat isn't just a place to relax. It's a carefully curated environment where every guest is accounted for, every moment tracked. Yet Diddy himself remains elusive, absent from court hearings that question the retreat's operations. His silence adds to the mystery. Is it a calculated move or something more? As whispers circulate and documents leak, one thing is clear. Diddy Retreats isn't just a luxury destination. It's a controlled experience, a glimpse into a world where access is limited, freedom is measured, and the outside world is kept at bay. As the scandal around Diddy Retreats grows, the entertainment world watches with bated breath. Celebrities, usually quick to voice opinions, respond in an unexpected way: silence. Except for one subtle nod, Kylie Jenner's cryptic post simply reads, "That hallway." A few words, but a tidal wave of meaning. Fans and insiders alike interpret it as a commentary on the retreat's infamous one-way corridor, a metaphor for control and confinement. Kylie's quiet acknowledgement sends shockwaves through social media, sparking debates and whispers across Hollywood. This silence from many stars is telling the industry is beginning to fracture the comfortable alliances shaking under the weight of what's unfolding. It's no longer just gossip or rumors. It's a cultural reckoning, a moment when the glitz of celebrity life collides with uncomfortable truths. At the center of it all, Diddy's absence from court hearings speaks louder than any statement. His silence becomes symbolic. No longer the powerful figure controlling the narrative, he's slowly losing it. Without his voice, speculation fills. The void in the story slips from his hands. The retreat, once a symbol of success and luxury, now feels like a cage. Celebrities who once flocked there start to distance themselves, wary of association. The fractured entertainment world is navigating a new reality where silence can be as telling as any outcry. In this evolving drama, Diddy's retreat becomes more than a place. It becomes a symbol of power control and the consequences of absence. And as the cultural reckoning deepens the hallway, Kylie hinted at is the narrow path between influence and downfall. The courtroom fell silent as the final witness took the stand, a former assistant once close to the heart of the retreat's inner circle. Her voice trembled as she recounted moments. No one outside had known stories whispered in halls lined with secrets. "I'm not here to accuse," she said softly, "but to remember. Because remembering is different. It's about truth." Her testimony was raw, emotional, a window into a world hidden behind the polished facade. She spoke of tension, of fear, masked by luxury of moments that no guest should have to endure. Her words echoed through the room, breaking through the dense layers of silence and control. Outside, the world waited anxiously. The jury retreated to deliberate their decision unknown, but the public had already formed a verdict. Social media buzzed, headlines spun, and conversations erupted in living rooms and newsrooms alike. At the core of the controversy was Kim, the figure, whose silence had been misread for so long. Kim didn't accuse. She remembered became a phrase repeated like a mantra. It shifted the narrative from suspicion to empathy, from doubt to understanding. That subtle yet profound distinction changed everything. The trial's outcome might still hang in the balance, but for many, the real judgment had been passed. A reckoning not just of facts, but of voices finally heard and truths unveiled. As the jury's decision loomed, the story of Diddy retreats had already left an indelible mark, a tale of control, silence, and the power of remembrance to rewrite history.